Welcome back to the #1 progressive show in America, bar none, period, end of sentence. Thom Hartmann here with you. On the line with us is Luke Barnes. Luke is a reporter with Think Progress. ThinkProgress.org is the website. His Twitter handle is LukeBarnes_92. Luke, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. So you were reporting this morning over at Think Progress. People could read this at ThinkProgress.org. This extraordinary Trump's Tampa rally, this is his rally yesterday in Tampa, Florida, shows the QAnon conspiracy is now fully mainstream. QAnon? This was a new one to me.
QAnon has been this conspiracy theory which has been propagated around the fringe and very Trump-friendly sections of the internet for a while now. It went silent for a couple of months, but now it's very, very much back in the mainstream, and clues or breadcrumbs as to, as they're called in the QAnon community, have been deposited again. So it's kind of whipped up the QAnon community into a frenzy. And it's a completely bizarre conspiracy theory.
So this started with some individual who nobody knows, somebody who is able to anonymously post on 4chan, I believe, and who was doing kind of haiku. He was suggesting that there's this deep state that's out to take down Trump, but that Trump is going to take down the deep state, and he's going to put Mueller and Hillary Clinton in prison and all this weird stuff. And with these little haikus, because they were relatively ambiguous, all these other conspiracy theories were spinning off this. Am I describing this right? Because I'm basing a lot of it on your reporting.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very clever on the part of whoever Q is, because this theory is vague enough that anything can be kind of brought into the fold and be part of the QAnon conspiracy. Like, I remember this was a couple of months ago, but when the Las Vegas shooting happened, that was not just a mass shooting, that suddenly became part of the QAnon conspiracy. I did some reporting about this group recently in Arizona, which is basically trawling around the desert, or the outskirts of Tucson, looking for what they describe as child sex camps, and what are really homeless encampments. And that kind of got brought into the fold of the QAnon conspiracy as well. So all these these tidbits, these haikus as you describe them, are as you said, they're kind of vague enough so that anything can be interpreted as being part of the Q theory, being part of the Q plan. And from a trolling perspective, this is quite a extremely good tactic. It pains me to say that, but it's really brought attention, and it makes people get enraptured by it. But it's starting to seep over into the real world now, and that could have a lot of pretty dangerous consequences, frankly.
Yeah. Back in the 80s, I was in the Middle East, traveling through several different countries and hanging out with folks. And I kept hearing these wild conspiracy theories, and I don't even want to characterize them in detail, right now. Yeah. But they basically, I mean, they were just wild. And I was asking a friend of mine who is an Israeli psychotherapist, or an American psychotherapist who lives in Israel now, an old friend. What's the deal with this? Where do people come up with these stories? And he said, when people are oppressed or feel that they are oppressed, they try to come up with an explanation that makes sense of everything. He says this goes back to way back when, before we had science, and, lightning would strike a tree, and we'd say, well, why did that happen? Oh, it must be the gods fighting, or it must be that Ralph over there violated one of the rules of the tribe, and this is the gods telling us to kill Ralph. But we have to have explanations. If the world doesn't make sense, it's a frightening, frightening place. And over the years, I've heard variations on that. I've read about it in social science texts. Who's the most vulnerable to conspiracy theories? It typically are these marginalized communities, people who feel that, whether correctly or not, but typically correctly, feel that they're on the outside looking in. What is this? If my theory is right, or my friend's theory, which I think is widely accepted in social science now. But feel free to push back on this if you know something different from what I do. If this is true, what does this say about the Trump supporters who are following these kinds of things, or for that matter, the people who are hatching them?
Well, no, I think that your friend makes an extremely valid point, and I think it's, one thing that I've kind of noted, and Will Sommer over the Daily Beast has also noted, is that, these conspiracy theories, or the QAnon theory, began in the same part of the internet that was responsible for a lot of the alt-right's growth. And the alt-right is it's quite young. A lot of its followers, it's an umbrella term, but a lot of its followers are, young men, disaffected men. But the QAnon theory, and this is backed up if you look at the type of people who are wearing the Q merch or holding the QAnon signs at the rally in Tampa, they tend to be older. They tend to be kind of more baby boomer-esque generation. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of speaks to their insecurity about their place in society, and the idea that America's changing, that their place is kind of on top of the social hierarchy is being challenged, and so they're looking, or not all day, like a subsection of them are looking for some sort of explanation to this, and conspiracy theories in that regard are very, very seductive. It's very, very easy and very, very appealing to believe that behind everything, there is this sinister cable that involves everyone from Tom Hanks to the Queen of England to George Soros to Hillary Clinton, who are like manipulating things and making things fall into place, and that they're part of the heroic good guys standing up against it. And it does have a very appealing ring to it.
This, by the way, if you read William Scherer's The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, this was Hitler's sales pitch in 1933, is that there's this international Jewish cabal, principally of bankers and wealthy individuals, who are plotting to destroy the homeland, the fatherland, the German Volk, the German people, and they're doing it by cutting your wages, they're doing it by skimming profits out of your checking account, they're doing it, on and on and on, and of course it metastasized into the Holocaust. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's another good point. Like, I don't think that I haven't seen QAnon be as explicitly anti-Semitic as other stuff on, other, sections of the far right, sections of the alt-right. But there is always that kind of talk of the globalists and of the banking conspiracy.
Well, is there a racist piece to this? I mean, if this is white people who are aging into Social Security and realizing, oh my God, I can't actually live on this, or young white people who have no sense of history, no context to put things, and they're struggling to understand it. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. I was going to say, I think there are a lot of, dog whistles in there. I don't think that QAnon, right now at least, it's not explicitly racist.
So they're not yet reaching out and saying, oh, my God, those brown people from the south of the border, they're coming to take your job. Those black people, they want to displace you in the good jobs.
Yeah, no, I don't think that it's at that level right yet. But there is a lot of kind of, subtle undertones to it. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff, as how I said, the globalist bankers, which is basically a dog whistle for Jewish bankers. There's a lot of stuff about illegal immigration, open borders, MS-13, the cartels, all of this stuff. And it really is 2 steps removed from, outright anti-Semitism, outright racism. But it does kind of help, as you said earlier, it does very much help to feed into the idea that these quote-unquote other groups are all conspiring against you, the deserving, the proper Americans, so to speak.
Yeah, it's remarkable stuff. Where do you think, we're talking with Luke Barnes, a reporter for Think Progress, who just wrote a brilliant piece about these signs that many Americans saw for the very first time last night at the Trump rally in Tampa, QAnon. Luke, where do you think this is going to go? Do you think that as it gets the light of national publicity, I mean, the national publications are picking up these stories, that it's going to strengthen it, or is it going to shatter it? I mean, is it going to become another Pizzagate that everybody laughs at down the road? Or is it going to become, something like the enduring, German theory of Jewish bankers?
I think that's a very interesting question. I hope that once more attention is shined upon it and more people start to pick up that, this is actually what, a good subsection of Trump supporters believe, then hopefully the media, other commentators will help to say, this is ridiculous. Right. Look at the evidence, it doesn't add up. But, we thought that would happen with Trump as well. We thought that just by fact-checking him and by saying, actually, this isn't true, then he'd go away. So I'm not quite, 100% positive in the media's ability to kind of shine the light on this and expose it. I mean, and there's also kind of a couple of worrying examples of this drifting over into the mainstream in terms of like people taking concrete action. In June, for instance, there was an individual who was armed with the AR-15, who drove onto Hoover Dam in an armored truck, I think it was, and he sat there and demanded that a specific piece of QAnon evidence be released by the government. On Sunday, there was an individual who was photographed at Michael Avenatti's office in California, holding what appeared to be some sort of like knife shank. The picture was blurry, but Avenatti also said that like the threats against his office had quadrupled since QAnon had mentioned him. So I think that unfortunately, we live in an era in which these type of conspiracies can boil over, and someone can take it upon themselves to take action. I mean, you saw what happened with Pizzagate. Someone drove all the way up from North Carolina to quote unquote investigate by going in there with an assault rifle.
Right, and shooting into the ceiling. Yeah,
exactly.
It's amazing.
So I think that there's a strong possibility that could happen. Hopefully it doesn't, but you never know nowadays.
God forbid. Luke Barnes, great reporting. It's over at thinkprogress.org. Luke, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
You can tweet Luke at LukeBarnes_92. We'll be back.